Okay, good morning, good evening, afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to another SIG CLI meeting. I am your host, Juan. Mache could not be with us today, but uh, I will try to update for him anything that he might have to say today. We'll start off with some announcements. So KubeCon will be next week in Seattle. Sean and Menchi will be doing the intro session for SIG CLI. And Mache and myself will be doing a deep dive session focusing on kubectl plugins and basically detailing the mechanism. A reminder that we will begin the 1.14 release cycle on January 2nd of next year. And with that being said, let's get some updates in the test grid. So I believe we skipped the last SIG CLI meeting. So we did not get a chance to update this last time. However, since I was on call for it, I've noticed basically no major issues during my time as on call. I took a look at the test grid briefly for the last 2 weeks. So Mache was on call for the past 2 weeks, and I did not notice anything severe, mostly a few flakes here and there. I have updated the test coverage sheet, I believe, and I will go ahead and update it as well for Mache's 2 weeks on call. There are no questions about the test grid. I do encourage anyone that's part of the SIG to sign up to be an on-call. Simply click on the Google Doc and add your name to the list. Being on-call basically means you just monitor the grid and you report on any major outages or flakes, and you also take steps towards fixing the flake or contact the right people to get a fix for the flake going. With that being said, we have a few topics for today, and I'll hand over the floor to Nick and Paul for their presentation. You have your thoughts, Paul?
Thanks, Juan. This is Nick here. I'm SC0Z, I don't know why I have that weird name on mine, but this is, Nick from IBM. We'll be talking a bit about, let me share my screen. Do you mind if I grab control?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm trying to see if I can unshare.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, great. So we'll be talking a little bit about a project we've been working on for a bit to give us that we're calling KUI. We don't know how to pronounce it yet, but to give us a nice way of transitioning from a world of CLIs that we all know and love into a graphical world. I think that I'll show you some examples as we go. I'll sort of level set us initially with some of the basic approaches that outline the approach we're taking. But just the summary here you see on the first slide here, I think is the basic mantra we're trying to adopt here, is that we love CLIs, we want to keep a CLI-centered mindset. So visualizations can't be a mandatory part of any experience that we're offering to our users. But I think that we've all found that even the simple tabular views, some simple grid visualizations can go a very long way to helping even the most expert of users. And the biggest constraint there is that to make it so that we actually use these tools as expert users, is that transition from the world of CLIs into the world of graphics has to be what I'll call graceful. It has to be fast. It can't alter my experience in a great way. It has to be graceful. So that's what we're shooting for. Just to give you a sense of the kind of visualizations, and I'll go to a live demo just in a second, but just to give us a level set, the kind of visualizations we'll be seeing as we go through this demo. You'll see tabular views with online status. You'll see some views on the lower, that we're showing on the bottom to show you visualizations either in a tabular form or in a grid form of recent activity. So just to give you more of an operational perspective on your deployments. In the upper right, you can see that as we enter a world of composing together services, we can offer flow views that show them how all their components are grouped together into larger flows. And the hope is that all these visualizations, see, there's nothing sort of radical here, and it's really sort of uber bespoke. about any of these views. They're all pretty straightforward views, form views and tabular views and grid views and flow visualizations. So that we're not trying to invent a world here that's radically different, new, and self-contained. But we want to highlight and augment our CLI experience with a rapid access to some of these high-value visualizations. The basic approach we're taking here is we've adopted Electron as, I think of it as kind of our beachhead into this visual world. If you're not familiar with Electron, you can just search for it, but just briefly, it's the technology that's underpinning the Atom Editor, Slack, VS Code, quite a number of other technologies at this point. The basic idea is that it gives you, in a single bundle, it gives you Chromium and V8 engine. So we're using that as our beachhead into the visual world. We want to make sure as we architect this that transition to that world is fast. And so you'll see that we have a very lightweight headless mode that makes it so we can get there very quickly and very sort of gracefully into this world. Some of the common cases can be very easily screen scraped automatically in tabular views. For example, kubectl output. A lot of command line output, which outputs tabular views, can very easily be screen scraped automatically into more visual views. Same thing actually for help and usage output. We can do those things kind of automatically. As we get into the more sophisticated visualizations, the more bespoke visualizations, the hope is that we can graph those on to the core experience without really any mind-altering aspects of our really core and really high-value CLI-centered mindset. You also see that we've introduced this sidecar metaphor to the experience, which I think is just a pretty nice a way of introducing semi-modal interactions to the experience. So let me show you some of this stuff live so we can get into the meat of it. As a sort of sneak preview, we also can run it in a browser version. I'll get back to that in a second. So the basic experience here is I've done this as a kubectl plugin, but it doesn't need to be, as we are all familiar with. A kubectl plugin is really not much. So the idea here is that I'm sitting here on my terminal. This is just my macOS terminal. I'm doing a get pods, which is so far there's something new here, maybe some new colors, but it's more or less just get pods. The point here is that we want to make it so that I can, with a simple gesture, transition from this world of my macOS terminal into a graphical world. Open my other window. So that opened up. I'll do another one just to hopefully it opens in this desktop. I'll put up another desktop again. These transitions all happen very quickly in a matter of less than a second. The window just pops up immediately. And within that second, I now have access to, as a designer, to a much more rich world. I can use the wealth of HTML to window dress the experience. Now, it isn't just a matter of some of it is just simple window dressing, but also, as we'll see as we go along, we can now make it so that we can enter into a world of watchers, these little buttons, these little badges that are green, could be yellow and red, and we can automatically watch things without having to introduce a new world. We can also introduce new commands. There's a status command that will give you a status across a lot of disparate resources. You can see here it's not just giving me the deployment, but also the underlying pods. It's doing a crawl. And we can do the same kind of gesture, simple gesture, opening them at the desktop, to enter into a graphical. So here you can see that the synchronous nature of the deployments and of the querying as to the status of all my deployments is handled, and I think in a fairly seamless way. You can see here as these open up, I actually have a CLI that I could continue to use if I want, but it's not a mandatory part of the experience. But now that we're in this graphical world, we get all of the benefits, not just from the window dressing standpoint, but also from the navigational standpoint. So now I can click on some of these rows and drill down. Here's where the sidecar is swiped in. And now I have a drill down perspective. And by default, it's just showing the raw YAML for this deployment, but we could maybe even offer this focus status perspective now on that particular asset. And I can then close that, set the escape key, transition back to this tabular view, and I can then ask another question about a different deployment, for example, and as to its status as well. So that's the kind of mindset we're shooting for. Let me show you some of the quick examples here. We can also ask a question about the status of my famous book info. I'm going to do this with a --UI flag to open up a window. Of course, the desktop. So you can see here that the same status here I was showing previously. You can get very rapid access to it. We can also do other kinds of commands. So here I'm going to show. So far, I've just shown kube views and shown views just about the status or the CRUD level of my operations. But we also may want to get visualizations into a much more operational or log-centered world. And here I'm going to show you a view that's centered on OpenWhisk, on cloud functions, on the serverless world, because that's where we are today. But the idea here is that that window opens up in a matter of seconds. So I can, if I want to see a two-dimensional, more graphical perspective on what my current deployment is, for example, how many failures I've had recently, these are all transitions I can make without having to enter into a different world. In a conventional world, I would have to open up my browser, log in to the right place, navigate through whatever complex navigational structure the designers had in mind to get me to that particular point of asking this very particular question of what's the grid for this particular time frame. Here I can do it all naturally with my CLI. So if I wanted to do whatever it is, if I want to change the filtering criterion, I can do that in a natural way from a CLI-centered mindset. We can also do other things. I think I was showing you previously. We had the here I can now ask for my activations. If you're familiar with OpenWhisk, it has this activation list view. So there's, if I did this in the CLI, there is such a command. I could say, I can drop it for now, but it has a purely textual version. But you can see here that just with some simple visualizations on top of the base data. See here, I'm showing the basic temporal aspect of each of the activations, each of the invocations of these serverless functions. It adds a huge, tremendous value without huge investment from the standpoint of utility. Anyway, so that's the basic perspective we're shooting for. Let me show you one last thing, and I'll show you off to the world of the browser. So here we have that flow visualization I was talking about earlier. So we can, all of these views I now have open on a larger monitor. What I typically do is I can now tile my window as I want. So if I want to keep this view, for example, open off to the side and have it live watching, I can do that. I can have it sitting off to the side and maintain my CLI-centered mindset. The last thing I just want to mention briefly is that because this is all using Electron as a core, with that, I said, that very quick headless transition, we can now have a natural transition into a world of browsers. Here I've just transitioned to Firefox. All the same experiences that I had from the terminal, we can now offer to the users without having to reinvent a new world and have the designers sit down for 6 months and design a parallel construct, a parallel world of interactions. It's all the same basic interaction. So I'm showing here my activation list, my kubectl get pods, and these are all running in the browser context. We can get to the technical details of how some of these are implemented later on. But I just wanted to give you a quick run through of the basic structure of the interactions. So here I can see I'm navigating and drilling down. So anyway, that's the picture of where we are now. In terms of time, I think it's a good time to transition over to questions and discussion.
Sure. So I guess I'll start off with a question. It looks great, by the way. Thank you for sharing this. And so I'm assuming this is a kubectl plugin that anyone could download cross-platform.
Yep. So we have we put it on GitHub for now under the IBM org, but that's just where we happen to put it today. So here's where it is currently. It's Apache 2.0 licensed. Everything I've shown you is there today, and it's all TypeScript, except for the test, except for a few sample inputs that are JavaScript. Pretty much it's all TypeScript, pretty heavily typed. Yeah, we can get to the technical, but it's open source. the foundation is there. The builders I was mentioning before, we can have builders for Webpack. We can publish the web app. I don't know if you noticed that, but the web app is just running in an S3 bucket. All that stuff is open source. Yeah.
That looks fantastic. And yeah, I guess with regards to the web app, is there an option to run that locally? I guess, and you send up a local server, or you have to publish it?
Sorry, you cut out a little bit. I think you were asking that whether the web app could be run via a local web server?
Yes.
Yep, totally, yeah. So in fact, as part of the default build, if I go into dist Webpack, if I say npm run HTTP, I just can paste in this URL. So yeah, we have a builder environment that's so that all the routes work properly running Webpack locally as well, which helps us quite a bit with doing the build and test of the web app, with the Webpack deployment.
I have a quick question. Yeah, this looks really nice. The question I had to do with the security implications of exposing basically the command line through the web. Have you thought about? I mean, what are the permissions that are given to this? To the shell that's exposed through this web page?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, so currently the way it works is that so first of all, it's there is no server side for the web app. The web app is purely static content hosted out of an S3 bucket. All of the permission, all the credentials are stored in browser local storage. Which is pinned. In this case, this is a bad idea because I'm running in a generic S3 host name. So this is not what you'd want to do in production mindset. You'd want to host this under your own host name so that the credentials are now locked down. So this is bad, but I don't care about this one. But the idea is that if you have your own host name, and I actually do, I just didn't have time to make a CDN on top of it for the demo. You'd be good to go because there's no server side for this other than your actual services, your cluster and your, in the case of serverless, your serverless runtime. And all of the credentials will be locked down, pinned down to the host name, that you've established. I think the story is pretty solid, but I'm open for security experts to start kicking holes in.
Great. Yeah, this looks like a brand new, interesting direction.
Yeah, I think we've had some pretty good feedback. As we presented it, Carlos is on the call. I think presented it to the Knative CLI group last Thursday, I think, and there was some good feedback from there as well. We presented it to a couple other forums. I think we have people actually using it. The OpenWest community, we've had some fair interest there as well. I think that it's I mean, this is still pretty new. I think as you can probably tell, we've only, I think, broached the surface of getting into the kube world. I think, like for example, the grid view, having a much more sort of rapid access to operational or semi-operational perspective, and over the kube data, we've only broached the surface. I'm excited to see how we can take this. I think we really think of it as a beachhead. Once we've opened our minds to the idea of an Electron app, a local app, we can do a bunch of things. For example, we can have protocol handlers running on our web pages. So we usually click on whatever we want, // it just opens up the local app. And now we've transitioned users from a browser-based learning experience into a local experience with a click of a button. So there's a lot of, I think, sort of possibilities opened up once we have this beachhead.
I guess one quick question is, how does this work with watching resources? So if I watch pods, does it append rows to the table?
So let me see. So the idea here is that, this is a case where I think Carlos just reminded me earlier today of the need for some of this stuff. So by the way, if I just do the shell command, that's the one that will open up the desktop, window. It opens up.
Sorry, I'm in back connection. Can you repeat the question?
Sorry, Carlos, what did you say? So here's a case where it's the Kate status. So here's a case where the watchers will automatically, if I say kubectl create -f, what happens is under the covers, with the online, it'll start with pending, and the pending will be blinking, and then when the pending is done, it turns green. And so it doesn't append to the rows; it actually modifies the little cells, badges in each row. And I think this is a case where I think we need to think through exactly what the interaction model is. Maybe it's, instead of having each command structure have its own -w, maybe it's more Unix style of a watch, a command, and then the watchers are enabled by default. What I'd like to see for a high value demo is, as I'm doing this, as we're opening up other tabs here, you can see I'm opening a bunch of tabs. I would love it if each of these tabs then could enter watch mode. I could, with a click of a button. This isn't implemented yet, but I click the button, the tab enters watch mode, and as new data flows through, like you can badge the tabs so they can notifications. We can really start enriching the experience. And the hope here is that by the way, I'm the biggest CLI user you could possibly imagine. But so I think the goal here is not to invent a whole new parallel world. That's the exact opposite of the intention. The intention, though, is that I think even the most uber expert users out there need to be able to watch things. And the idea is there, if we can just make it so that instead of opening up a new terminal tab and saying watch, just say kubectl, cooey, whatever it's going to be called, watch, a window pops up, and then you can just pin that however you want in your desktop experience. It's sitting off to the side, and it's fully graphical. And it happens just as quickly as you would have by just typing it as ASCII. So that's the idea here. So we shouldn't have to invent a parallel world here that the answers aren't going to use because it requires too much of a mental shift into a world that's designed for beginners. We'll never get anywhere with that. So that's the hope here, is that we have the right foundation for really having productive use of visualization.
Definitely. Again, fantastic demo, and thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for the time.
At this time, I'd like to see if anybody else has questions or comments or anything like that.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Thank you. So I guess with no more questions, I'd like to move on to the next topic, which is the Crew Plugin Manager. Do we have Amit on board today? Okay, looks like Amit isn't with us.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't see him as one of the participants. I was looking through that earlier.
I see. Okay, we can defer.
Let me ping him and see if he can make it by the end of the meeting.
Sounds great. So we'll defer the topic for now, and I guess before we move on to stand-ups, if anybody else has any topics or major feature updates at this time, you have the floor. Okay, hearing none, we're moving on to stand-ups. I guess the first person in the stand-ups is Nikolai. Nikolai, are you here?
So Nikolai said that he wasn't going to be able to make it, and so it was just a quick question. He's been working on trying to fix some of the flaky port forward tests, which are the majority of our flakes in our test grid. And the question that he had, like I said, unfortunately he couldn't make it because there was a conflict with work. he wanted to know about cherry picking this back to 112 and what our policy was. To be honest, I'm not sure what it is or if we want to do this. As we move towards 113 and the 113 release, I think this is going to resolve itself. But we can resolve it faster by cherry picking this E2E test fix back to the 112 release. Does anyone have any experience with cherry picking back to a different release branch?
Yes, so I believe I've done that a few times. I believe you just need approval for your cherry pick. And so I did get a chance to briefly look over his 2 cherry pick PRs. I noticed for one of them he's doing a partial pick, and so I believe it's because new behavior was introduced and he's only picking changes for existing behavior in 112. And so in my opinion, that's okay. I think it's a good idea. So long as we can get cherry pick approval for that, I see no objections on my end.
Okay, great. I'll pass that on to him, and we'll move forward with the cherry pick. And just a big +1 to Mikolai for helping us clean up our tests.
Definitely.
Sorry you couldn't be there to hear that.
Hopefully he'll watch the recording. So up next we have Bing Fang with some updates and reminders about the customized PR. Bing Fang, are you with us?
Hey everyone. This is Jing Fang, and in our last SIG CLI meeting, I did a demo of kube control with customized integrated. And after that, we opened the PR, and it has been open for about 4 weeks. And I just want to remind everyone to take a look of the PR and leave your comments there. And hopefully, I hope to get everyone's comments before KubeCon in Seattle, and then I will address those comments. If we couldn't do that in this PR, probably we will address the comments in following PRs. So if you need more contact of customize, or feel free to ping me in Slack. So so my goal is to have this PR merged sooner better. Thank you.
Sounds great, and definitely, Matcha and I are sort of syncing together to review any comments we have, and yes, we hope to merge this pretty soon.
Thank you.
So with this in mind, before we move on, really quickly, Nick or Paul, could I get you to please paste the link to your plugin somewhere in the agenda?
Certainly.
Thanks. So hopefully we can leave that on there for the future. Moving on, we have Kohix, I believe, with an introduction. Do we have Kohix with us? It looks like he might not be with us. Okay, hopefully he will receive a chance to introduce himself at the next meeting. So before we wrap it up, I'd like to ask if anybody else has any stand-ups or updates on their behalf that they'd like to announce. Okay, hearing none. I'd like to leave off with a quick reminder that if you can make it to KubeCon next week, please drop by, and meet us. We'd love to say hello to everybody. And hearing no more updates, then I'd like to give all of you back 20 or 30 minutes, and hope to see you at the next SIG CLI meeting. Thank you.
Yep. So just a quick update. I pinged Amit, and unfortunately he has a conflict, and so I'm going to put that topic on our next meeting, whenever that is. If we're going to have one right before Christmas.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and I'm not entirely sure if we'll have everybody available for the next meeting right before Christmas. So I guess we can have a small discussion on Slack about this, and we will keep the SIG updated either via a mailing list update or a Slack update for both.
Yes, and just one more plus one on let's all get together and meet face to face at KubeCon for whoever's there. It'd be nice to actually have face to face discussions, although I still appreciate having discussions with you through Zoom, you all.
Thank you everybody for attending, and yes, look forward to meeting everybody at KubeCon and hearing these topics. And thank you, Sean, for reaching out to Ahmed Al-Bakr.
Thanks.
Thank you. And with that, we'll be off. See you either in 2 weeks or next year. Happy holidays.